Welcome to the Morning Report, a production of fightbackmedia.com, the number one source of urban conservative information in America.
Let's fly away, just you and me. I need a little break from the city. It's been so long.
Well, good morning, America. My name is Willie Lawson, and this is a Morning Report, where we punch through the noise and drop a cargo load from 30,000 feet. Today's subject: a president's plane is older than most memes. 33 years old. Air Force One has been flying longer than some of you have been alive. And it's still supposed to be the most secure, capable, high-tech aircraft in the world. So you deserve to know the truth about what's in the skies above your head. Air Force One isn't just an airplane. It's basically a flying White House. Some secure communications, EMP protection, aerial refueling, nuclear war survival mode. Wow. I bet y'all didn't know all that. But the current fleet, tail numbers 28,000 and 29,000. There are two because you never want the enemy to know which plane the president is actually on. It's based on the Boeing 747-200B. And it got delivered in 1990. In 1990. That was about 34 years ago. Think about that. 1990. The Cold War was still ending when this thing rolled off the line. And we're still using it today in 2025. Why? Because the new ones are stuck in production hell. Because I wondered, it's like, okay, so why hasn't Boeing built another Air Force One? Well, they need that. I'll get to it in a minute. Hi, I'm Willie Lawson of the Morning Report. You know, in all our work here on the Morning Report and Fight Back Media, what we have found being true is one thing for sure. Godly principles are lacking on both sides of the aisle. And many organizations are putting profits before people. Our friends at 7 Weeks Coffee was started to reverse that trend and live out their calling as believers in the marketplace. As a value-based business, 7 Weeks Coffee has a simple and transparent mission: to donate 10% of every sale to pregnancy care centers across the nation. They are committed to earning your trust, not expecting it. And how do they do this? By leading with their values, showing the impact, and providing the highest quality product. Y'all know I'm a Christian, I'm a conservative, and 7 Weeks Coffee unapologetically supports pregnancy centers across the nation. Join us by letting your coffee serve a greater purpose. So I asked myself, I said, self, why hasn't Boeing just built another plane? They've got all the stuff, don't they? They know how. Here's what happened for a lot of the people who don't know. Trump locked down a $3.9 billion fixed price contract with Boeing back in 2018 while he was president in his first term. They were supposed to deliver 2 new VC-25Bs. Now, that's the number the military uses for that aircraft, so they can distinguish it amongst the other military aircraft. Because let there be no doubt, Air Force One is a military aircraft. Okay, and it is based on the 747-8. But Boeing is now in the red on this thing, because what was supposed to happen was that this was a lockdown $3.9 billion fixed price contract, and if there were cost overruns, Boeing was supposed to eat that. Delays that cost more money, Boeing was supposed to eat that. But they're in the red in this thing. And then COVID. Supply chain shattered. Subcontractor went, one of the subcontractors went out of business, went belly up. The replacements, well, they're delayed until 2027, next year. And the other one, 2028. Now, the problem is they're analog. Analog. I don't know if, you probably don't know, but I have gotten into the most amateurist of aviation geeks now, watching a lot of aviation on YouTube. I've got my you can't see it here, but you can hear it. That's my flight yoke on my computer, and over here you can't see it, but I've got my my throttle quadrant, and down on the floor I have my my rudder pedals. Really getting into aviation. I don't know. I've always thought it fascinating. So I've been, trying to pay attention to this stuff. And it is interesting that the plane that flies the president around, the literally the most powerful person in the world, does not have the best technology. It does not. It doesn't have a nice digital glass cockpit. It doesn't. It's from 1990. How is that possible? So we're talking about Air Force One now is 33 years old, is analog. And of course, just like anything else, like people, it is maintenance intensive. Lots of maintenance, always an issue. Anybody else who can relate to that, if you are of a certain age? And slowly, like a lot of us, is becoming a flying museum. Now, here's something weird that happened. Qatar, the country, and the monarchy has gifted a $4 million jet to the United States. The royal family is gifted the U.S. a luxury. Now it says luxury, yeah, because all those planes, if they're not being used as regular commercial airliners, if you pimp my jet, and make it something other than a 200 or 300 seat economy, sit in that middle seat for 400 miles jet, it's going to be luxury, right? Because it's owned by the royal family. It's valued at, like I said, about $400 million for use by President Trump. And they call it a gift to the American people. Now, it isn't like other countries haven't gifted stuff to us. Now, I don't think anyone's ever gifted a plane to us. Maybe we're getting up to that level. The problem is that the country of Qatar isn't necessarily on our best friends list, especially when it comes to their support for some Islamic regimes, right? Again, here on the Morning Report, we got to be honest about all this, right? So, what you're going to hear is, what about the emoluments clause? Doesn't fit her in. Foreign influence. Well, everybody's trying to get influence, especially now. So could it be a potential ethical nightmare? Maybe. But the Department of Defense is taking possession, not Trump. So there is no emoluments clause in the to look at. The Department of Defense is going to take this plane in, okay, And what they're going to do is they're going to rip it apart, put in as much of the things that Air Force One needs, not just nice seats, but all the electronics and all the protective stuff they can. I think they're not going to be able to do the EMP thing, but it's going to be basically everything else. Okay? And they're only going to use it temporarily until Boeing gets the first VC-25B ready for use next year. It's only going to be a short time. Everybody's losing their mind. Oh my God. Stop it. It's only be a short while. It'll probably be a little bit more than a year, maybe. Probably less, right? So, and if it gets one of the world's most targeted leaders out of a Cold War aircraft, should we care? Really? All right, folks. Listen, the Morning Report fight is a good fight. Please join us on Patreon for exclusive behind-the-scenes content, like my yokes, my flight yoke system, and my throttle quadrant, and my rudder pedals out here on the floor. You get to see kind of how we live here and how we're trying to do it better. Right? You can help us by going to patreon.com/morningreport. Now, I won't use any of that help to buy a better throttle quadrant. Maybe. No, I won't do that. You'll get to see some of the other stuff that we need here. So join us again, patreon.com/morningreport. All right. What should happen? Here's the plan here's the Morning Report plan. We should push Boeing to deliver on time. Have a backup strategy. And please, can we stop politicizing presidential security? Now, if these planes had been on time, Joe Biden would have been the first president to take use of them. If they had been on time. Yes, COVID, supply chain nonsense, all the stuff that we mentioned before. But it would have been Joe Biden's would have been the first president to ride on those airplanes and would have gotten the benefit of those airplanes. However, it didn't happen. So we need to stop politicizing this. This is presidential security. And, from a symbolic standpoint, we're flying a symbol of American power. And if that plane's running on cassette tapes, or has a VHS installed in it, maybe it's time to hit the eject button. All right, that's a wrap. Air Force One is old, and the excuses are older. And the American people, we're old too. But we deserve better. We deserve the best. My name is Willie Lawson. This has been the Morning Report. Please subscribe, support, and fight back. Because truth doesn't fly commercial. Be well.